Hey, welcome back, Vince's Muscle Shop. Today we're in our series on normal people doing exceptional things. Seth Helgason, a local bodybuilder who's pushed himself through 2 recent brain surgeries, and here he is today, still working. So, how'd you end up with brain surgeries? A big, healthy guy like you.
Started losing my vision is, I guess, the first symptoms I noticed when all the problems started. And to sum it up, it's called IIH, idiopathic intracranial hypertension, and the causes for it are still really unknown. They kind of classify it underneath autoimmune disease.
You just realized you were going blind one night?
Yep, I was just walking my dog actually around like 2:30 in the morning, and out of nowhere just lost my sight. Like someone put like a sheet of paper right in front of my face. I couldn't see anything. All I could hear was the crickets around me, and our dog we just got for our anniversary thankfully knew how to get back to our apartment. So she started kind of tugging me. And as she was tugging me back to the apartment, I started slowly regaining my vision. And as soon as I did, I beelined it right back to the apartment and then walked inside and talked to my wife, Cait, and said, hey, we got to go to the ER tomorrow. Like, there's something wrong.
Yeah, it sounds like something's wrong.
It was a little scary.
So then what'd you find out when you got to the hospital about getting the shunt or the tube put in? That must have been a bit of a shock.
Yeah, so it all started, we had to try to treat it with medication first. So we did 3 months of medication, so it was 120 milligrams of like Lasix a day and Diamox, which is a diuretic for your brain. And I was on that for 3 months and the pressure wasn't changing, nothing was going away. And at that point, I've already had 2 spinal taps, and they do that pretty much just to gauge your pressures, what your spinal fluid's at. And pretty much your body stops releasing spinal fluid, which that's what IH is. Your brain starts to swell up and you start having ocular pressure. So you start going blind, the optic nerves start getting the fluid pushed on them, so you start losing your sight.
And then did you have to cut back? I assume you cut back on your training and
everything
else?
I stopped training completely. The 120 milligrams of Lasix a day just was too much, and I felt super dry, everything hurt, and I just stopped training and stopped eating as much, maybe bring my body weight down to see if that would help too as well.
And that Lasix, that's got its own bad side effects.
It does.
Long term, doesn't it?
For long-term use, yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of Lasix. I didn't really want to take that much, but that was what was prescribed to me. So
you must look pretty ripped.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty soft. I was pretty soft. Definitely didn't feel my normal self for sure.
And you ended up with 2 surgeries, and you said coming out. So just briefly tell us, so that everybody can go through the excruciating pain here. You had the side of your head opened up, right?
Yeah, I just had to put everything on hold. You know, health comes first. At the end of the day, you can go blind.
Priorities.
Yeah. You know, and then so that's why I really stopped training, is just to get everything in check. You know, collaborate with the doctor and fix everything.
So I mean, there's a little lesson there. Despite what I see all the time on Instagram, there are things more important than the gym. It's sometimes life sets different priorities for you. After all that, instead of just shutting down, you went back to your job.
Yep.
You got things under control. You're back in the gym. Are you getting ready for another competition?
Competed back in May, and nothing right now that I have my eyesight on until next year, and I'm just shutting it down and trying to keep it healthy. Slow and steady's the race. It's a marathon at the end of the day. This isn't a sprint. Bodybuilding is something you can't do overnight. Like, you got to take your time and be patient and really be diligent in what you do.
So that's just a lot to accommodate. Besides, most people probably would have gone out on disability after your first incidents there with little surgeries, and then fortunately you were able to just make that part of your life and push ahead.
Yeah, you got to. You just got to overcome things. The worst thing about having the first brain surgery is when you put a shunt in, you reduce your pressure overnight immediately. Your eyes feel like they want to explode for about a month. You move too fast, you throw up. The nausea gets so bad because you can't focus when you walk. Trying to get used to that on top of trying to get back in the gym and taking everything very slow and listening to the doctor and like doing everything you're supposed to do, you really do. You kind of have to be mentally strong and tell you, I want to do this. If not, you're just going to be laying in bed.
So what prepared you for this? You know, because some people are raised that way. Other people just come into these situations and find out that I can handle it, and in fact I have to.
Yeah.
Or is it a combination of both?
Life definitely set me up for it. Watching my mother survive cancer, being diagnosed with terminal cancer when I was 5. She was given 9 months to live. She ended up surviving. And then after that, she had over a dozen tumors removed. One being the size of a small soccer ball in her stomach. So watching my mother overcome everything and watching her be strong and never complain once, never cry, never moan, just, you know, being a strong mother, really, that's what, like, I would say would be the beginning of me saying, like, oh, you can do whatever you want if you're strong enough.
And I know myself, it helps if you have that kind of example. I mean, having grown up with my father and mother, but all my uncles, they had all been through, Second World War and everything else. Not to keep dating this thing, but these are people that just, I mean, this is part of life. And, I mean, it went on for a long time, so they got pretty good at it,
Yes.
you know? And so it's unfortunate that we don't all have these kind of childhoods where everything goes nice and you go to Disney World, because, I mean, that's great. My grandkids do that, but sometimes there's a wrench thrown in there, isn't it?
Sometimes there's a curveball, and that's life.
Okay, and now we're joined by Seth's wife, Cait, who also a competitor, as you could probably tell. And, well, Cait, what'd you do with this guy when he came home with, tubes in his head and everything? It must have first been a shock and then some effort.
I mean, I just try to stay patient, mentally strong for him, emotionally there for him, just to help him, because I know he was obviously depressed from not being able to lift, do what he loves, and you just have to be very compassionate about how he's feeling at that time. So I was just trying to put myself in his shoes. How do you feel emotionally right now?
You, his nurse, he probably complained about that, I would assume.
Yeah, he's very stubborn in the way that he wants to obviously care for me, take care of me. So roles reversed. It was just very hard for him to just lay there. He'd always say sorry for like asking me to go get something or anything for him, but I'd do anything for him.
So since you both compete, you've trained and dieted and did all your preps, does that discipline, I don't know if it transfers for everybody, but does that transfer over to things like this and just generally in life, knowing how that you can discipline yourself? How'd that help you through, your little hospital stays and, your brain tubes?
Absolutely. You definitely have to stay very self-disciplined, very mentally strong to handle those kind of things.
I'd say it definitely helps. It definitely helps carry through. Definitely helps when you have hard times, you have to go through something. Being disciplined on a regular basis, when no one's forcing you to do something, it's on your own will. I definitely think that discipline carries through if you allow it to in all voyages in life. So any kind of hardship, you can definitely use bodybuilding or weight training and some sort of disciplined regime to keep you stronger and help build your character and the rest of your life.
Yeah, because every day obviously is not going to be perfect, and you're going to be thrown curveballs, and you have to figure out how to handle that as it goes.
Well, that's one reason I do some of that strongman training. It's just pure drudgery, like going up and down stadium steps with weights, because, sometimes life is just a lot of drudgery. And it does discipline you to get through it. As I know both of you know, you just keep pushing because you're not there yet.
And you have to keep on pushing forward, At the end of the day, life isn't perfect, but it's here doing the best it can. And sometimes we don't appreciate that. And sometimes you wake up like, oh man, I don't want to go to work. But one day you're going to wish you can go back and do that one day. I don't want to go back to work feeling, because you won't be able to do that. And that's when it'll really kick you. Man, I should have appreciated life a lot more and tried a lot harder.
Yeah, I had the same problem coming to work here after 13 years, but I got to come into work.
All right, I'll take back my words a little bit.
So once you got cleared to go back to the gym, or maybe a little prior to that, but what was the challenge there? Because you had to build back up, and you're getting ready for competition after that.
Yeah, I decided that we moved up here from Iowa to actually compete at the Arnold Amateur. So when COVID happened, that prevented that from all happening, and then 2 months prior to the Arnold anyways, that's when I had my brain surgery scheduled. So that was all kind of crapshoot out of the water right away. So I'm like, all right, well, next year. I immediately already started thinking about next year and started thinking, well, I can't let this win, so I'm going to beat it. And I immediately started making plans. If not, depression will take over and you will find yourself just being in a pool of depression you'll never want to get out of, and you'll be boo-hoo me, you'll be a crybaby. So we set to do a show back home in Iowa and Dubuque. Mighty Muscle, Bill's an awesome promoter and great guy. Placed second in the super heavies, which was awesome. Haven't competed in 3 years, and I prepped myself for that show and prepped 3 other clients to do the same show.
Very independent guy, did his own prep. What did you weigh in the heavyweights? How much did you weigh?
I weighed in at 225.5. 225 is the cap for super heavies, and I wanted to just be in that range. Could have came in a little bit more conditioned, obviously, but I was very happy. And placing second, I was just super excited to be there.
Yeah. And Cait, did you compete in that mighty muscle?
I did not. I was just his moral support. So I competed just this past September.
Did you ever compete together?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I plan to.
Yeah, probably next year.
Oh man, that would be there would be a lot going on in your household with 2 people carb restricted on special diets.
Just a happy wife is a happy life.
You had some injuries though coming back.
Yeah, after the first brain surgery, I got up to 258 pounds before the first brain surgery. After the 5 months of medication, I dropped down to 202. And then when we had the brain surgery, I finally got down to 198 was the lowest body weight I got down to. And then I immediately started building back up as soon as I could get back in the gym. Got back up to the mid 230s, low 240s, and then I tore my right quad.
And you still trained through that for the show?
Yep. The leg that was a challenge, and then not even 3 weeks later, I find out I have to have another brain surgery. So now I have a tore quad. I have to go back for another brain surgery. They don't know what's going on. I'm confused and lost because I'm putting all the faith in their hands, and you're just trying to do your best, trying to stay afloat. And at the end of the day, you just got to do it.
I hope Seth didn't take away all your excuses for not training, but it can be done. Just like getting through a couple brain operations can be done. You can still get through them and actually do pretty well, both of you.
Thank you.
I mean, there's always somebody out there who's always had it harder than you, and there's always somebody out there who's been through more, and they've gotten through it.
Yeah, there's always someone out there willing to work harder than you, so you just have to try to push past that.
Take yourself and just put yourself in their shoes for a minute and really live their life for a minute, and then put yourself back in your shoes, you might find yourself, man, I have it really lucky.
I hope you enjoyed a little interview with these people, Seth and Cait. And next week, actually Sunday night, we're heading up to Pittsburgh to Axe and Sledge. We'll see where all your stuff comes from, and maybe get to see Seth Feroci. We'll see who's around. Thanks a lot for watching us, and goodbye.